Welcome back to the Brendan T. Adams audio experience. I'm Brendan T. Adams, and I'm sitting here with Craig Wahl. What's up, my man?
Lots. I'm down in St. Petersburg with you, and it's been such a great time.
Yeah. So we met at the Charcuterie in Canada, and you were in the hot seat, and I was talking to him like, dude, I can help Craig. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna work together in various things because it's so needed what you do, because you help the CEO, somebody like me, really kind of think through how they look at their business, how they scale properly. You've been a part of companies that have scaled, and kind of in a way acting like a fractional COO, but more powerful in a sense. So before we jump into all the questions, because I have a lot as a CEO, I'm going to be asking you all kinds. I'm even going to bring up the co-CEO thing, but I want to just hear from you, for anybody listening or watching, what is it that you do from your mouth?
So what I do Brandon, is that I partner with CEOs to help them see through all the complexity and chaos of their business. If you think about a CEO, we were chatting a little bit about this yesterday, how CEOs feel pain, but they don't always know what that pain is. They see the symptoms, but they don't actually know what the causes are. And seeing through the complexity and all that, I can help CEOs see what that is and then help give them the strategy and plan on how to execute and get through that to see growth and success that they're looking for.
What are the main pain points or main, let's say, things that CEOs do wrong?
So I think one of the biggest things is that CEOs get distracted, and there's so much going on in their business that they lack the ability to focus sometimes because, as you know, you're a CEO, you get pulled in 1,700 directions. Yeah. And so how do you keep yourself and your organization focused? The other is there's what I would call leadership drift, that CEOs unfortunately have so much to do, they can't keep the leadership team aligned on the things that need to be done. And you might have one department doing one thing and another department doing another thing, and then you get to the end and wonder why it's not done.
Yeah.
And so that's a real challenge. And then the other one is that once you've got this grand vision, how do you get it done? And can you trust your organization to execute for you? And that's some of the biggest things that I help them with.
So we were talking last night about CEOs when they're raising capital and they're deploying capital, which I have dozens of companies in our portfolio for Big Brand Ventures, and we're thinking about this every single day. What are some of the common mistakes that CEOs are making when they're raising money or even when they're deploying capital, maybe not deploying effectively? Talk through that.
Sure. Before you get money, it's really important to think about what you're going to do with it. I've worked at a number of companies where they've taken a lot of money and 2 years later they needed more. And so it's not just about hiring more people. It's not just about going into a new market. It's about really thinking about what you want to do with that money, setting some aside for a rainy day, but having that plan and then being very clear about executing against it before you get the money. The second thing is get the right amount of money. I've worked in a couple of companies where they didn't take enough and they were back at it again. And it was because they didn't understand how much they needed and how long they needed it for. But once you get it, you get to have fun. Let's be honest. A whole bunch of money comes in. But where do you want to be when you're done? How long do you want to spend that money? And where are you going to invest in your business? But more importantly, who are the key people you're going to hire? Because most money I've seen gets used to hire people, and you have to make sure you find the right ones.
One good point is you gave an example of some person came in and said, hey, you're going to hire me and I'm going to increase this and this and this, but they didn't go into the depth of they need this and this and this person to be able to hit this, which means it costs more overhead. Talk about a scenario like that where hiring talent leads to literally hiring more talent, which means more capital.
Such an interesting story for sure. I was working at a company who took a whole bunch of money and was going to hire a salesperson, a CRO.
Yeah.
And when they figured out the plan, the CRO was going to target new market, grow revenue, but what they didn't plan for was all the marketing that had to go into it, all the lead generation that had to go into it, the sales reps, the commission, the go-to-market and revenue operations, the team that had to deliver it. And so they had done a high-level plan but didn't get into the detail and figure the necessary things out. And as I said before, they didn't take enough money, or the plan they had wasn't suited for the money they took.
Most cases, people do not get enough money. Like, hey, they think they need $2 million, they reality need $3.5 million, or whatever that number is. So making sure, like you said, taking enough money, but also knowing what to do with it. And the biggest thing I look at is with raising capital, okay, how do you deploy that capital to work for you and achieve a milestone? Not just, oh, we got this money, here we go. Like you said, make sure you know what you're going to do with it. Is there any like exercise or thing they can go through just to best prepare for taking on an investment?
So if you've never raised money before, align yourself with people who have.
Yeah.
That's my best advice. Don't try to do this on your own. Like, there's a way to do this. But once you've got it, talk to someone who's operated businesses, understand the things that you're going to need to do to be successful. But there's another thing. When you're running a business as a CEO, sometimes you're not thinking about everything that's going on. And one thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about that I think is really important is about when to raise money. That lots of companies I've worked with waited too long, and they were in a bad place to raise money. If they had raised it earlier,
they would have got the money.
They would have gotten better money, and it would have helped them for the long run.
Yeah. So the timing is everything. Making sure you're in a spot where it's intriguing for the investor versus you try to go longer, you might not be in a good spot to raise. And then when you can raise the money, make sure you take the necessary capital to have that cush.
Absolutely right. Sometimes when you're working at a company that's running really well, they're raising capital even though they don't need to raise it because they know they're going to need it in the future. And that's raising money when times are good. Or I've worked at some companies where they didn't know if they were going to make payroll.
Yeah.
And they had to raise money. And so think about the difference inside of an organization, the pressure, the stress, the things going on in the business when you're making a decision, when you're trying to make payroll versus you're investing in yourself for the future. The partner you find, the kind of money you get, the amount you get, it's all different because you're not feeling that pressure in the organization to just get some money.
When a business is scaling, let's say they're going from 5 million to 10, 20 million, what have you seen as the biggest like obstacles or maybe operational things where there's not clarity, where you've come in and helped them kind of navigate through that?
Sure. So one of the stories I think would be really helpful for everyone is that I took a team from 8 people to just under 300 people in less than 2 years.
Which is insane.
Which is crazy. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned in doing things like that is, and when I go into organizations is, and we talked a little bit about this before, which is people. Organizations can scale, but they can't scale without the right people. And sometimes the people on your team aren't going to make it, and that's okay. A scaling company is different than the company you're at now, but it's helping identify the key people in the organization that are going to grow with you. You can empower them, you can create accountability with them, you can give them new opportunities, and you can scale them, and they're going to naturally scale other people, which is then going to scale the entire organization. And that's the biggest place where I invest when I'm working with companies is learning about the people, learning about what their skills are, their capabilities are. One of my favorite questions to ask someone when I first meet them is, when you wake up in the morning, what excites you about going to work? Why do I want to know that? I want to know what helps them get excited, makes them passionate, what skills they have, because that's what you scale when you want to scale a business.
Talk about a couple of success stories that you've had because you've worked with so many CEOs where you're very proud of, or you took them here and helped them navigate through any obstacle they had.
My favorite story to tell about this is I met a CEO of a company it was really small. It had 5 million in revenue, and the founder was very focused on the customers. She spent 85% of her time working with just her customers. I've got a lot of customer management in my background, so I'm very, very happy when companies love their customers and spend time with their customers.
Yeah.
But what she didn't realize is that the company was slowly dying because there was no new revenue. Let's be honest, you need new customers. Yeah. You need new revenue. And when she first met me, she just didn't think that I could come in and learn the business quick enough, help grow the team fast enough that she'd feel comfortable giving up control. And that's an important thing about a founder and a CEO who's running a company is about how to successfully give up control. And within
delegation, trust in your team.
Absolutely. And within less than 6 months, that's how long the contract was, but within 3 months, I had built an operating system for her that she spent half of her time within 3 months on what she used to do, that new time she spent on doing revenue generating activities. And by the time I was done, she was spending 80% of her time on revenue generating, and the organization, nothing had happened. No customers were lost. Expansion revenue was still happening.
Wow.
And that was the operating system that I left behind. And she still says every once in a while when I talk to someone that knows her, It's like Craig's a little bird on my shoulder and he's whispering in my ear.
Yeah.
Which is such a great feeling as when you do what I do, because you know that you've had an impact.
So top 3 things, you're looking at as a CEO, what are the top 3 things or traits that a CEO needs to be successful?
CEO, from my perspective, is the vision of the company. So being able to communicate and communicate clearly is for me one of the biggest things for a CEO to be good at. The CEO has to be motivational. The culture of an organization, from my perspective, emanates out of any CEO. And so that CEO has to be motivating. They have to be encouraging. They have to believe in the team. They have to believe in the mission. But most of all, they have to be the one who helps guide the organization, give it vision, give it a place to go. I say this all the time. CEO gives you the vision, the strategy. They're the face of the organization. And then those of us who follow, we're the ones who create the steps for the journey to get to where we want to go.
Have you ever come across where the CEO, I'm sure you have, but the CEO is running the company, but they really shouldn't be the CEO, but they still are? Right? Like, how was that navigated? Or a founder that's a CEO and not meant to be the CEO?
I've worked in a lot of different companies, and one of the key things I've seen a couple times, and I actually just finished a contract like this where the 2 founders had been running a business for 25 years, and they woke up one morning and decided they didn't want to run the company anymore.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine the dynamics inside of a 25-year-old company when 2 founders hire an outside CEO.
Yeah.
And so it's wrought with a whole bunch of challenges for the CEO, for the company, and for the founders. Can the founders give up the things that they've had forever? Can they allow the CEO to take the company to a new place in a different way that they're not comfortable with? How uncomfortable can they get and be able to live inside that environment? And then for the CEO, how do they behave when they know that maybe someone is inside the organization looking over their shoulder all the time?
Yeah.
And the awkwardness of someone being a founder, working in the business, sitting in the board meeting as a chairman of the board. And so some of these awkward situations that can occur, what I've found is that when you find a partner that can be the conduit in between some of those things to help articulate what the challenges are, create the common bonds, create that alignment amongst those people, things become much better for the organization, and it eases that burden.
Okay, I want to jump into the co-CEO. So I've now the past few years now, year and a half, even did like a vlog around inside the life as CEO. And with our company, Big Brand Ventures, Brian Harrington and I share the co-CEO. Now, when we sent out to do this, we first thought, will the co-CEO work? But our thought was, okay, Kevin and Brian had created this company, been working together for years. It works as a good duo, and we're both kind of in charge and having our own lanes. Now, over the past 18 months, we've learned so much. There's a lot of mistakes we made. We've really kind of found our groove. And Leah was saying last time, we're like brothers. We almost kind of know what one is going to say and how we work. But for those listening right now, there's very little, hardly any co-CEOs out there. And it's a very unique thing. Now, what would be the things, without even diving into our situation or what you know of us, first thing that comes to mind when you think co-CEOs, what are the things you think, oh, why would it work, or different things around that mindset so people can really understand that?
This is such a fascinating topic for me because I think it's really an interesting
people,
situation.
By the way, always ask us, how does that work with the co-CEO?
I wanted to talk.
You asked it yesterday, so I wanted to dive into it because it is a really unique topic that I know a lot of people will be just fascinated to hear from you on.
So the first thing I wanted to understand is who goes to who for what.
Yes.
And like, it sounds so basic, but you're inside of an organization and you need decisions made and there's things going on in it. Who comes to the one CEO? What do you come to the one CEO for, and what do you go to the other CEO for, and what decisions do they make together? And
dividing and conquering,
right. And the thing I was thinking about last night after we chatted was a little bit about the idea of children and parents.
Yeah.
That sometimes what would concern me and about it is do the employees start to think I'm going to go to one for this and the other for that and things like that, like you might as a child with parents, like I'm going to my mom for this and my dad for that, which can cause some weird things inside of an organization. But the one that always concerned me the most about it, but you have to have the right people doing it for sure, is about setting direction and vision, the clarity of where the company's going. I've always believed that one person is best suited to do that. I could be very wrong. But that would be the one thing that I would be always interested in co-CEOs is how does the direction get set?
Yeah, it's so interesting because we've I think if you put two people that have only been with each other for a year, I don't see how it could work. But you take, I've been working with Kevin and Brian now 10 years. And so we've created our own interesting vibe and bond. I remember one time somebody asked, well, how's it work on decisions and stuff? I'm like, I think we almost know what one's going to say. And then if there is that rare chance of we don't know what one's going to say, we'll go to each other and say, what do you think on this? And it does actually give an interesting aspect to brainstorm as two CEOs and okay, what are we going to do? And then I'll probably come out and say, hey, here's what we're doing. But as we go on this journey, I said this to you last night, I think in the next couple of years, you're probably going to see Brian Harrington and I on a magazine, co-CEOs of big brand ventures, how to navigate the day-to-days as co-CEOs. That's actually a good title when you think about that. But I love this conversation. I know we're going to be doing a lot of work together and working on other things from portfolio companies. But for people that are watching, listening right now, you're going to be having workshops coming up for CEOs. You work with other companies and CEOs. Where can people learn more about you and find you?
So a couple places you can find me on social media, but you can also find me at my website, which is neorth.ai.
Awesome. Well, check him out. We're going to have more of these conversations. These are a lot of fun. I enjoyed the CEO aspect. Follow him. And as always, until next time, we'll see you later.